Just listening into the nets right now, it looks like they're actually going through life support activation. So I just heard a call out that carbon dioxide levels are coming down, which means that our life support system is actively taking in air from the cabin and revitalizing it so Bob and Doug can breathe nicely on board.
So just some statistics while we're thinking about it. Obviously, we mentioned that Crew Dragon has been on board the station for 63 days now. Feels like yesterday. And during that time, Bob and Doug have traveled over 27 million statute miles around the Earth. So
that's incredible.
Frequent flyers, I would say.
Yeah. Do you get is there a frequent flyer pass for Dragon? I hope so. Yeah, they're zipping around. I think on ground track they're going about 17,500 kilometers when they're at ISS's orbital altitude. That sounds about right.
Yeah, I think it's 17,500 miles an hour.
I'm sorry, miles per hour. Thank you.
It's still extremely fast. So if you look just above the hatch, you see that ISS 20 flag. That is representing the 20th anniversary of the International Space Station, which we will actually be celebrating later this year. So for the past 20 years, I like to explain it to people as if you are under 20 years of age, you've never lived a day without humans in space. So for the past 20 years, we've had continuous human presence aboard the International Space Station. It's truly international. We have obviously our two upside down friends we see. They're getting a better look inside by turning in that direction. They are from Roscosmos, the Russian space agency. Looks like they are taking out the intermodule ventilation. That helps equalize the air in between Dragon's capsule and the rest of the International Space Station.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, while Dragon has been attached to the space station, most of its operations have been in what we call quiescent mode. So that's really just a low power state where we've only got monitoring on the thermal system, the propellant system, taking a look at some parameters in case we were to see anything that would trigger the Dragon's onboard automation to wake the vehicle up and let ground operators know something needs to be addressed. The onboard life support system is actually only used when we close the hatches and for brief periods when we are configuring the vehicle when we first arrive and periods when we're leaving, like right now. So that duct that they pull out, the intermodule ventilation duct, that actually provides clean, breathable air and circulates the air in the capsules and providing that air from the International Space Station.
And it looks like hatch closure is soon to be underway.
Houston and Hawthorne from Endeavour.
Still working to take out some equipment inside Dragon, move it back into the space station.
Yeah, so as part of those activities, moving the intermodule ventilation duct, they activated, of course, the lithium hydroxide scrubbers on board Dragon. Cabin fan has been running. And I think we're just waiting on confirmation of hatch closure.
Yes, and I think they just called down that they are working on that, putting that into motion. We're getting one step closer to sending Bob and Doug home.
Closed for Endeavour.
SpaceX copies.
And Houston copies.
And we just got confirmation that Capsule Endeavour has closed the forward hatch. We can actually see on our screen the activities to close the 8-pass hatch as well.
And that Crew Dragon hatch closure came at 2:36 p.m. Pacific time as the International Space Station was flying over the North Atlantic Ocean.
As part of hatch closure operations, Bob and Doug actually inspected the seal on the interior surface of the forward hatch on Dragon. And we're talking about the forward hatch and the side hatch. The forward hatch is actually the part that's attached to the front, sort of the front portion of the International Space Station. So if you imagine the International Space Station flying in a direction around the Earth, the forward direction of it is what we're attached to. And that, if you were imagining the capsule sitting on the rocket, is actually at the very top of the rocket, underneath the nose cone. So if you're imagining the rocket as it was on the launch pad, it's a little bit sideways right now. And there's a sealing surface on that forward hatch that Bob and Doug would have done an inspection on, just to make sure that there's no foreign object debris or FOD that could cause a potential leak.
And looks like we may be stepping into a satellite handover. It happens commonly on the International Space Station, and it's called actually a TDRS handover, Tracking Data and Relay Satellite System. We're constantly moving from one to the next.
Yeah, so we actually use those tracking and data relay satellites as well on the Dragon vehicle. They provide our telemetry links. I believe they're in the geobelt. Hopefully that's correct. But they provide communications, uplink and downlink and commanding, actually, a downlink for us to command the vehicle as well if we need to step in on the ground side. Speaking of which, we actually have a view of mission controls in Hawthorne. So that is that's where our mission controllers are in Hawthorne. The folks who are issuing commands to the Dragon spacecraft are all sitting. In the third row there is the mission director, as well as an internal view of the Dragon spacecraft. We've got Bob in his, looks like his comfort garment, which would be what he wears underneath his suit. Nice to see the capsule getting all packed up.
And then another view from the International Space Station side of things. Looks like Anatoly Ivanishin flying out of view, and Chris Cassidy down there in between the hatches in that vestibule area. He is working through procedures to soon be closing the A-Pass hatch on the space station side and prepare for depressurization.
Dragon, SpaceX, no response.
Yeah, so we talked about this a little bit.
On cameras for your suit donning.
Copy, SpaceX. Thank you.
Now, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but the vestibule, the space between the A-Pass hatch and the forward hatch on Dragon is really just a small volume that is normally exposed to the vacuum of space when we don't have a visiting vehicle like the Dragon spacecraft. And we have to step through some depressurization steps once we have confirmed that all of those hatches are secured, both on the International Space Station side as well as on the Dragon side of the spacecraft.
So we just heard the call that Bob and Doug are go for suit donning. So the Dragon hatch is closed. They've said farewell to their orbiting friends for now until they're all reunited in the ground in the future. And they'll be going through that suit donning shortly. You did mention it looked like Bob Behnken was already in his comfort garment, that first layer of the suit.
Yeah, the comfort garment is it's basically like an athletic garment. Just helps them stay comfortable before they step into the suit. And the suit is largely a one-piece design. So the helmet is integrated into it. The boots are integrated into it. Really, they will unzip some interfaces on the suit, climb into it, zip all those attachment points up, and then there's actually an umbilical on the leg of the suit, so it's a kind of a connection that provides gases and electrical connections to the suit, so they can use the integrated microphones in their helmets, and it also provides them breathable gases for suit leak checks, and if we were to have one of those emergency scenarios, it would also provide pressurization to the suit. And I think notable to mention that these are different suits from what you might imagine for like the spacewalks and EVA suits. These are what are called intravehicular activity suits, meant for really activity inside the vehicle.
So what we just saw, as Chris Cassidy was down there in between the hatches in that vestibule space, he was affixing that docking target that we mentioned earlier. I like to say it's like an X marks the spot, because that's what the vehicles aim for when they arrive at the International Space Station. So one step closer to bring in Bob and Doug home. And we're actually really fortunate that the weather has turned out pretty good in the Gulf. Looking at a Pensacola landing site right now, we just, before we went on air today, we had the 2.5 hour prior to undocking weather briefing, and things are still looking good for an on-time departure today.
I'm really glad to see the weather cleared up. Storm moved back towards the Atlantic. Which opens up our opportunities for landing sites in the Gulf of Mexico, which Gary had actually mentioned earlier, Pensacola being the primary site today.
Yeah, so as they continue work on the A-Pass hatch, let's check in with Gary over on the International Space Station Mission Control Room side of things.
Stand by, Gary.
Thank you, Leah. We're watching the same view that you are seeing, Chris Cassidy working on that A-Pass hatch on the International Space Station side. As you saw, that hatch on the Dragon side closed. Now, this is an important set of procedures that Cassidy is working right now. You already mentioned the docking target. This is that rod with the X at the end of it. X marks the spot. As Leah mentioned, this is an important item to affix to that A-Pass hatch. Now, you see set up a camera just outside there. He's also going to be taking some pictures for the ground teams to know exactly how the A-Pass was configured prior to closing, getting ready for some of those next crews. Now you saw there was a white padding on the outside of it too. That's just for a safety measure as the crew was moving in between the hatches. But everything going according to plan here. That A-Pass hatch expected to be closed about 10 minutes after closing the Dragon hatch, which was closed just about 10 minutes ago. So it should be closing up. After that A-Pass hatch closure, now you see that hatch is on the station side.